let's move from there to Tucker, because I think that's a good segue into this much anticipated interview. Ted Cruz sat down with Tucker Carlson for his Cabin podcast, and Tucker has so far released 2 clips. Ted Cruz already salty about the clips that have been released. The entire podcast episode is not out yet, but it appears like it's going to be Tucker Carlson and Ted Cruz arguing about war with Iran for a very long time. Let's roll the first bit.
How many people live in Iran, by the way?
I don't know the population.
At all?
No, I don't know the population.
You don't know the population of the country you seek to topple?
How many people live in Iran?
92 million.
Okay. Yeah.
How could you not know that?
I don't sit around memorizing population tables.
Well, it's kind of relevant because you're calling for the overthrow of the government.
Why is it relevant whether it's 90 million or 80 million or 100 million? Why is that relevant?
Because if you don't know anything about the country...
I didn't say I don't know anything about
Okay, what's the ethnic mix of Iran?
They are Persians and predominantly Shia. Okay,
it's not even... You don't know anything about Iran. So
okay,
actually,
I am not the Tucker Carlson expert on Iran.
You're a senator who's calling for the overthrow of the government.
You're the one who
don't know anything about the country.
No, you don't know anything about the country. You're the one who claims they're not trying to murder Donald Trump. You're the one who can't figure out if it was a good idea to kill General Soleimani, and you said it was bad.
You don't believe they're trying to murder Trump.
Yes, I do.
Because you're not calling for military strikes against them in retaliation. And if you really believe that...
We're carrying out military strikes today.
You said Israel was.
Right, with our help. I said we. Israel is leading them, but we're supporting them.
Well, you're breaking news here, because the U.S. government last night denied, the National Security Council spokesman Alex Pfeiffer denied on behalf of Trump that we were acting on Israel's behalf in any offensive capacity.
No, we're not bombing them. Israel's bombing them.
You just said we were.
We are supporting Israel.
High stakes. You're a senator. If you're saying the United States government is at war with Iran right now, people are listening.
Okay. Now, one reason some of this might be important, Sagar flagged this this morning. Let's put up B9. So this is the Iraq war coverage is extremely important to go back over because so much of what we're seeing today directly mirrors what we saw in 2001 and 2 in the lead up to the 2003 invasion. And I'll just read from this quote, this looks like the New York Times font, during their conversation with the president, Peter Galbraith claims, it became apparent to them that Bush was unfamiliar with the distinction between Sunnis and Shiites. Galbraith reports that the 3 of them spent some time explaining to Bush that there are 2 different sects in Islam, to which the president allegedly responded, I thought the Iraqis were Muslims. And so, Emily, I've seen a lot of people defending Ted Cruz here saying, look, you don't have to read the CIA world fact book about every country to know whether or not you want to invade them. And Cruz's point there is like, doesn't matter if there's 80 million or 110 million. You could say, okay, that maybe that particular data point doesn't matter. 70 to 110 million. It's 50 million people we're talking about here. But okay, fine. Let's grant that. The ethnic breakdown is so important because what happened in Iraq? Just think about it. Like, what actually happened after we invaded? Exactly what Peter Galbraith, by the way, warned would happen. He said, hey, right now, you have a Sunni minority who is in control of the country in the form of Saddam Hussein. There's a Shia majority, and there's a Kurdish population up in the north that do not like Saddam Hussein. And in fact, there was a no-fly zone at the time, kind of basically creating a de facto independent Kurdish region in the north, that if you get rid of Saddam Hussein, Iran is going to arm and empower Shia militias who are going to spark a sectarian civil war in Iraq.
Yeah.
That's what was predicted. And if you didn't know these basic facts about the country, you would not be able to do that analysis. So to say that Iran is Persian and predominantly Shia, is to then say, well, we'll knock off one Shia Ayatollah, and we'll put a Shia, we'll throw in the Shah's kid,
right,
and everything will be fine. Your colleague Sorab over at Unheard, Amani, wrote a piece recently that actually and maybe that's where Tucker got it. Maybe he read that and was like, oh, this sounds very familiar. He wrote a piece saying, look, yes, there are a lot of Shia Persians in Iran, but it's like barely a majority. In fact, it doesn't even include the Ayatollah, who's Azeri.
Right.
You have a Kurdish region in the northwest, which we love to foment. We anywhere we can find like a population anywhere that is interested in that has some skepticism of the metropole, we'd love to go in and send them some weapons and some encouragement.
Some weapons and some encouragement.
Yeah, go ahead. Like, express your national interests.
Yeah.
Go ahead. We do that everywhere. And we're not the only ones that know how to do that. So if you create this power vacuum and you have half the country fighting the other half of the country, fighting other sects of the country, that seems like something we should consider before we go into war. So that's why I think it's not fair to say that Tucker was asking him trivia questions.
Yeah. No, I mean, listen, I think Tucker's using those questions as a clever way to make a point. And,
Ted Cruz is like the smartest, one of the top 5 smartest senators.
Right? IQ-wise, he's up there for sure. Yeah. He's...
Like he and Mike Lee and Bernie smart? I can't tell.
I think he's pretty smart, yes. So Cruz responded, quote, did a long interview with Tucker. He released a snippet playing a, quote, gotcha on the population of Iran. I declined to play that silly game. Watch the full 2-hour interview where Tucker attacks Trump, attacks the AIPAC lobby, and falsely claims Iran is not trying to assassinate Trump. So Cruz, interestingly enough, is advertising this video as heavily as Tucker, if not even more heavily than Tucker. He also reposted an attempt to criticize Tucker that said, Tucker, what's the Ayatollah's favorite color? Ted Cruz, I don't know. Tucker, how then can you support an attack on Iran? Cruz, because they're building nuclear weapons and want to destroy America and Israel. Tucker, that's ridiculous. He told me his favorite color is blue. So, yeah, I mean, like, again, Ted Cruz makes a point that I think actually...
It's red. Obviously, his favorite color is red. I mean, come on.
It's so easy. It's so easy. He loves our lighting, sources say. But here at Breaking Boys. But
it's an homage to the Ayatollah.
Yeah. People are going to believe it when you say that. Tucker's trying to make a very legitimate point. Ted Cruz, I think, has a fairly legitimate response where he says, what does it matter whether the population is 80 million or 100 million or 92 million?
That's fine. I'll give him that. Yeah.
That is a perfectly legitimate response. But what Tucker is trying to get at with that line of questioning has he built to what is the ethnic breakdown of Iran is exactly what Tucker pointed out. It's that we sit here and play Risk from air-conditioned conference rooms in Washington, D.C., basically, and then a bunch of poor American kids end up getting dragged into it, and you kill a bunch of civilians. I mean, already 70 women and children have reportedly been killed over the last week in Iran. So that's already happening, and so it's easy, I think, to get caught up, especially when we look back and comparing what happened in the early days of the buildup in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's just so easy to get caught up in war as a culture war, and sort of war as like actual war. And I think Tucker's making a perfectly legitimate point. I'm excited to watch the full 2 hours here. I think we know what Ted Cruz is going to say, but you made a point early in the show I found interesting that at least MAGA is willing to debate these sort of things. I guess that's true. I mean, this is two pretty high-profile, mainstream MAGA voices sitting down and yelling at each other and encouraging people to watch their argument. I guess that's a glass half full take.
And notice what Ted Cruz used as 2 of his retorts to Tucker Carlson in his tweet. Mm-hmm. Tucker Carlson criticized Trump.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's his argument. His argument is not, I was right about X, Y, Z.
Yep.
It's Tucker Carlson said something mean about Trump. So therefore, Tucker Carlson should be rejected. Mm-hmm. And then he also says, and Tucker Carlson doesn't believe that the Iranians are trying to kill Trump.
Right.
Which there's this whole thing that there was this intel report, which apparently Trump does not believe either.
Right.
That he thinks that this was the deep state lying to him to try to manipulate him. Mm-hmm. that this claim that Iran was actually trying to kill Trump. There's much more evidence that Ukraine. Did you follow that one assassin?
Yeah.
And much more evidence that Ukraine was actually, or somebody in Ukraine. We should.
Somebody in Ukraine. Yeah.
We should cover that that assassination attempt more in depth. You can go Google it. There's this indictment where one of the guys who tried to kill Trump was like in communication with Ukrainians. It's like, what? So let's go bomb them, I guess. But Tucker's response was, you don't really think that Iran is trying to kill Trump, because if you did, you would support bombing them right now for that. And you don't. You support bombing them over the claims of nuclear enrichment or whatever. So he's basically saying nobody believes it, and it's all just a lie.
And so the question going forward then is how Donald Trump reacts. I mean, obviously he's been very critical of Tucker Carlson just in the last several days. But does Trump continue siding with Tucker or continue siding with Ted Cruz over Tucker? Or does Trump, who is always putting his ear to the ground on his base, as far as his base is concerned, remember even he was concerned that Netanyahu had a quote unquote public relations problem in Gaza about a year ago. So does Trump falter on any of this, or does he see this ultimately in his best interest, or does he see this as something that's necessary for him to do in order to maintain the support of his own coalition, including, like he knows, for example, Tucker, he thinks that Tucker will always be with him. I don't think that's the case, but he thinks that he can keep Tucker and Don Jr. and Charlie Kirk on board, which I think that is probably true.
Yeah.
And Tulsi Gabbard, I don't know about that, but can he do that and still keep Miriam Adelson happy? Can he do that and still keep Ted Cruz happy? And the people who believe the same things that Ted Cruz does, can you keep those people happy? And does he think it's more important to keep those people happy? Does he agree with him? We just honestly have no idea at this point. And that's the huge open question.
So the other clip Tucker released is them going back and forth on Assad spying on the United States. Let's roll this one.
Does Assad share all of its intelligence with us?
Oh, probably not, but they share a lot. We don't share all of our intelligence with them, but we share a lot. It's a close alliance.
Do they spy domestically in the United States?
Oh, they probably do, and we do as well. And friends and allies spy on each other. And I assume all of our allies spy on us.
And that's okay with you?
You know what? One of the things about being a conservative is that you're not naive and utopian. You don't think humans are all. Part of the reason socialism doesn't work is the mantra from each according to his abilities to each according to his needs doesn't work. As a conservative, I assume people act in their rational self-interest.
So it's conservative to pay people to spy on you?
It's conservative to recognize that human beings act in their own self-interest, and every one of our friends spies on us. And I'm not.
Do you like it? That's my question. I'm not asking whether they have motive to do it. Of course they do. I understand that. And by the way, I'm not mad at them. But you're an American lawmaker, so I just want to know. Hold on. I want to know your attitude. Yeah. You said that your guiding principle, in fact, the only principle, the only criterion.
I said guiding, the overwhelming. I wouldn't say only.
Is it in America's interest? Is it in America's interest for Israel to spy on us, including on the president?
It is in America's interest to be closely allied with Israel because we get huge benefits for it. And you want to see the clearest.
But I just want to stop on the spying for a second. That it takes place, as you know, and including on the president of the United States and several precedents. And I just want to know if that's okay and why is it okay? Wouldn't an American lawmaker say to a client state, you're not allowed to spy on us? I'm sorry. I know why you want to. I'm not mad at you, but you're not allowed to.
Sure.
And I don't care for it. I don't want to be spied on by you. Is that, it's kind of weird not to say that, but you don't seem able to say that.
Yeah, what Tucker's poking at there is this longtime argument from critics of Israel that Israel is not a very good ally. And Tucker's saying, like, look, I don't blame them. They're looking out for their own interests.
Right.
And fine. But we are Americans. We can look out for our own interests. And if they're going to constantly spy on us, Boris Johnson famously said he thought Netanyahu himself bugged his bathroom when he stayed at his place. Netanyahu is always coming in with these massive diplomatic bags, and people are like, haha, it's funny that he is having his laundry washed here. What else do you think he's bringing in there?
Right.
Not just his laundry.
Wait, no, the laundry actually is. That's a thing.
It's this thing that he brings dirty laundry because there's free laundry service for foreign leaders.
To get the Watergate or something.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And everybody laughs about it. It's like, come morons. He's bringing in more than his laundry.
It's never just laundry.
It's not just laundry.
Never just laundry. I mean, the idea is that our ally or that our interests are always aligned, right? That's the line that Ted Cruz
they were
is trying to
they were caught
pitch.
somewhat recently putting a whole bunch of scanners around the White House.
Right. And what Carlson is saying there is that the interests of the United States and Israel are not always aligned in some pretty significant ways, but also I think he referred to them in that clip as a client and a client state. And so I think the point that he's making is that Israel's interests should, as a client state, as he said, but I mean, either way, they were 20% of their military budget annually, and they've said that they wouldn't be able to prosecute the war in Gaza if it weren't for us. So if you are that dependent on another nation, you may think it's in your interest to spy on that nation, but you, Ted Cruz, as a representative of that nation, should tell them not to because you have the power. And this is what we were talking about earlier in the show when you mentioned that actually if Trump was interested in projecting strength would be coming out and telling Netanyahu to cut it out and seeing, how that would go. It's a fair point from Tucker, obviously, that if you, again, want the United States to be so supportive of Israel to the point where Israel is dependent on the United States for its actual existence, which is obviously the case from their perspective and from Ted Cruz's perspective, then shouldn't you tell them maybe not to spy on the United States and not just give them that tacit, hey, everybody does it, so go on ahead and tap our phones and our White House and all that.
It seems reasonable.
Seems reasonable.
Nothing is reasonable about this, though.
No.
Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show, ad-free, and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.